Wow, wow, wow. Joey's back, everybody, after a week hiatus. He's back. Time to break down the disaster that was Vikings-Lions. This is the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. It's our Week 18 review, wild card weekend preview. But obviously, I mean, the majority of the time we're going to end up talking about the biggest regular season game in NFL history and how much of a dud it was for my beloved Vikings. So I'm gonna speak my truth, as the youth say, and then Joey, you can try to talk me off of the ledge. But it was a stunningly bad showing. A 14-win season to me now kind of feels like a disappointment all of a sudden. The offense was completely flat from the get-go. Legitimate worry in Viking land right now about Darnold after just an absolute stinker in a big moment. A lot of Vikings fans saying that was Kevin O'Connell's worst game, as Vikings head coach. I do not disagree. You and I were texting over and over about his fourth down decisions. The 2 times he went for it, we wanted him to kick, and the 1 time that he kicked was the time we wanted him to go for it. We were proven right in all 3 situations as the Vikings came away with 0 points from those 3 drives that were deep in Detroit territory. Obviously, some bad calls, some really questionable calls, especially in the first quarter. But all things considered, you look at the Vikings season and you say, hey, the 3 times we faced a good football team, we lost. Once by 22, once by 10, and once by 2 points. Every other win we had was against a team that either didn't make the playoffs or was Houston or Green Bay, who are the 7 seed and the 4 seed in the AFC, widely considered to be the worst playoff team. So I don't know where we go from here. I just know that was a massive disappointment. Give me your level-headed take, Joey.
You're saying you had 14 wins against losers? There's got to be like one good one.
Well, we had 11 wins against teams that didn't make the playoffs, and then we had 1 win against Houston, who I think isn't very good, and then 2 wins against Green Bay, who I don't think is very good. So it's like we faced Detroit twice and the Rams once, and we lost. So it's like, yes,
well,
we're a good team, but man, was that disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's disappointing. I mean, I'm not even a Vikings fan, but it's just got to be like, yeah, I mean, it like objectively was the biggest regular season game ever. I mean, that, record wise, numbers wise, maybe not in terms of hype or juice or whatever, maybe there was some rivalry game. I mean, but it's pretty big. And it felt like I was pretty confident Minnesota was going to win. I don't want to say convincingly, but I thought by like 8 or 9, 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
To score only 9 points against Detroit after, I know the Niners, I don't know who the Detroit played before that, but we're taking it to them at least, defensively or offensively for Minnesota. And
Lions had given up 35 plus, 34 plus in 4 straight games against non-Bears opponents. So I was like, I expected us to put up 28 at a minimum.
Yeah. And even if they kick a couple of those, fourth downs, I mean, what is it, like 15, 16 points? That to me is more of the concerning part. Defensively, I thought, Detroit rolls out of bed and feels like they put up 40. So,
Mm-hmm.
31, in that dome. I
would really say 14 of those points were almost not quite garbage time, but basically garbage time points. So it was like I felt fine with Flores' defense. I thought Van Ginkel, if he hangs on to that pick, it's a pick 6, and all of a sudden we got a tie ball game. It's like I was not at all disappointed in Flores' performance. I was disappointed solely in the offense.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know what to. I really don't want to be that guy who's like, Sam Darnold, like, knew it, because he's played so well. And, like, that doesn't, that's not luck. That's not, he's got good coaching, everyone around. Like, he's played really well himself. However, yeah, it was a tough one. I think, obviously, there's reason to be concerned. LA's already beat them once. But I mean, there's no reason to think Minnesota can't or doesn't win that game. But it's going to be tough.
The spot is bad. I mean, you're coming off, you had won 9 in a row, then you lay a complete egg in, I would say, a fashion that is as worrying as it could have been. Like, basically, had we lost the game, say 31-29, like we lost the first matchup to the Lions, okay, you can go into the Rams game and say we almost got them. Man, we just slipped away. This one, Darnold's worst game probably since early in his Jets tenure, 12 of 29. He had 9 overthrows, including 8 in the first half. 7 incompletions inside the opponent 10-yard line. Just there's no way to sugarcoat it. He was awful. He was an F- in that game. You can blame O'Connell, which obviously I did a ton. I thought it was a very strange game plan. We had 14 runs for 104 yards through like 2.5 quarters, and my dad is just constantly texting me, run the damn ball, run the damn ball. We had so much success running the ball. Cam Akers gets a 58-yard run to put us inside the 10-yard line. And then what does he follow it up with? A run into the line and then 3 throws that go nowhere. Yes, there's lots of blame for O'Connell in this game and Wes Phillips, our offensive coordinator. To me, the majority of it goes at the feet of Sam Darnold. I'm like, you got to make those throws. Dan Orlovsky had a good piece on ESPN today where he basically showed 4 wide open passes, 3 of them to Jordan Addison that he just completely missed, that if he makes those passes, maybe we score 21 more points or 17 more points. And it was just an utter disaster from Darnold. I don't want to dwell too much on this game, but I just want to point out every Vikings fan in my life, and there's a lot of them, all had essentially the same text after Will Reichard kicked it out of bounds at the end of the first half. Same old Vikings. And that's what it felt like. Unforced error after unforced error.
That's like one of those plays, like if that happened in like a big game, you're just like, oh no.
And you knew that they were going to go down and score after that. They only needed 22 yards to get into field goal range, and of course they got it immediately. Pretty early in the fourth quarter when we were down, I think we were down 8, and then we were down 15. I got the same text from many Vikings fans. We're on to LA, like TV off at that point. Like, I did not see a scenario where this was going to be that bad.
In the dick. You got to be looking forward to that for like the entire week. To get there, kickoffs here, it's like, woo! I don't know. I assume you watched it at home or whatever, and it's just
I was at home. And when we cut it to 10-9,
thud.
Yeah, just a total thud. The Van Ginkel hit early in the game energized Vikings fans. We were like, okay, now we're in this game. And then there was a sack on the next play after that, and then we made it 10-9, and then.
Yeah, didn't Darnold take a sack that lost like 17 yards?
Yeah. That was our second drive after we were down. That was our third drive after we were down 7-0. And when he took that sack, I was like, oh my God, this shit's over. And then obviously from there you had the 2 Goff picks, including the hideous arm punt throw, but we were able to get back in it with 3 field goals, could have had a couple more touchdowns there, but you could just tell kind of from the beginning that this was a team that had a lot of jitters. And we'll get to our Rams preview in a little bit, but man, just it's hard to feel good going forward after what I would call, the most disappointing Vikings performance since that loss to Daniel Jones in the playoffs in 2022. So really, really tough spot. We'll get to where the Vikings go from here in a little bit. We got to talk about the end of the Niners season. Obviously, it's a meaningless game. There's really nothing to talk about in that game. The Niners rested almost everybody. Dobbs got the start. Yes, there were, final performances from like Juszczyk and Kittle and some of those guys, but for the most part, this was a, hey, don't get hurt game. Nothing really to talk about. I just wanted to get your thoughts as you enter probably the most pivotal offseason since maybe 2020 when they ended up drafting Trey Lance the following draft. Like, your thoughts on what obviously the big storylines are going to be, Purdy's contract and whatnot, but what you think the future is of the veteran core of the team. I'm talking Debo, Warner, Kittle, Bosa, Williams, McCaffrey. Like, what are your thoughts on where the Niners go from here?
Yeah, definitely a different ending this year than last year. Years past having a meaningless. I mean, just ho hum. Who cares? Week 18 game, but yeah, I mean, something's going to change. I don't know. I don't predict drastic changes. I I think I think there's going to be that second layer of basically he said today like Travarius Ward's gone for like a really sad reason. I don't know if you saw it.
Hmm.
Like he basically like they did their locker room end of year availability day.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a pending free agent. And like he basically said, like I said my goodbyes, today. I'm probably like basically said I'm probably not coming back. And I really, I don't know if he was asked directly or if someone followed up, but he just said I love it here. I love it. My teammates, but basically because his 1-year-old daughter passed away here, he's got like severe PTSD. Like he can't, like he just hates being here.
Yeah.
Like basically the scene of the crime type thing,
Mhm.
and there's just like nothing anyone can do. He's like, I'm just miserable. I don't sleep. Like, and it's just because that, he's, it just constantly. That's just, I'm like, that's just sad.
Yeah.
But I don't. Long story short, I don't expect him to be back. I think Kyle Juszczyk played his last game as a Niner,
And it was a great one.
Yeah, I mean Debo, I just it doesn't save that much money to get rid of him. They can't get rid of Kittle. Kittle probably he honestly might have had his best year.
Mhm.
Like Fred Warner will be here, Bosa will be here, but yeah, it's like the I don't know what they do with Trent Williams. I don't know what they can. They gave him guaranteed money, to satisfy him, play this year, and he missed. I think half the season. And he's getting up there in age. I don't. It's just we're gonna find out. And then Brock Purdy, who, for being kind of like a pretty quiet, like, or doesn't ruffle any feathers type guy. It seems. He kind of said, "I'm not showing up until I get a deal." So we'll see. Don't know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, incredibly tough spot. Not used to for years, and incredibly years. So, hey, the last games of this year didn't get that. Your thoughts just before we get season, would you see her, and if so, at what time?
I don't know. I don't know. I
figure it's 4 years. It's very likely 4 years, maybe 5, but you can figure 4 years. So if it flashes across the Bleacher Report app on your phone and says Niners signed Purdy to extension, 4 years blank, like what is the line where you're like, man,
when did they get it done?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm asking because if they get it done quick, I think it's a good number.
Yeah.
If this drags on to like training camp,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have a weird hunch that they're gonna play hardball with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've said before, and it's come out, like the Niners don't really they're not fun to negotiate with, according to the guys who even signed extensions.
Mm-hmm. Bosa and Debo have had their
Bosa's the only guy that he basically had enough leverage to the point, here's my number, call me when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And the Niners tried and tried and tried and tried. And they had like last year's the Wednesday of week
Mhm.
one, they said, and like the Niners, every contract I've seen has been like, okay, it's not as a huge of a number or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
Jimmy's, like Kaepernick, all these guys were like, oh, they could get out after it. This one was like, no, he's getting 34 and a half, 5 years, nothing. Like,
Mhm.
there's just like premium position, premium player,
Mhm.
very much like a quarterback. I mean, you're not getting any discounts. But and there were earlier in the year, I thought Purdy was. I thought he was playing some of his best, football of his career so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it didn't help. The guys went down, but it just had not. It honestly looks to me like he felt him either gain or lose like millions of dollars each game.
Like the overthrows against Detroit that resulted in picks, you could see the gears in his head turning. Like, did I just cost myself $20 million?
Like, just I don't know. Honestly, though, like human nature, I don't know how you don't think about it.
For sure. Well, the exercise I wanted to do here is like, if I was in this situation, like for instance, Darnold, if I see franchise tagged, I'm happy. If I see Giants signed Darnold to 4 years, $160 million deal, I'm happy. If I see Vikings
You
signed
wouldn't give him 4 for 40.
If I see Vikings sign Darnold to extension and it's like, 4 years, 130 or something, or 140, I'd be like, okay, I see it. Now what do we do with McCarthy? What, interesting, whatever. If I see, for instance, what Saints fans saw with Derek Carr, what Giants fans saw with Daniel Jones back in the day, a wild overpay that just is basically like, we want to lock in a quarterback before the market goes up again. If I see flash across the line, Darnold 4 years, 200, I am pissed. So what's your line? What's your line for Purdy is my question.
It's really difficult. I mean, it's really difficult because, like, I have a hard time just saying, oh, he shouldn't get, just say 50, 55.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he deserved that money more than like Tua, I think, or Trevor. Like, he's done like, but again, the Niners don't care what you're doing in the future, your cap number, continue. Now he's got another elbow injury. I don't care what they say. Was like, oh, it's not serious. He maybe could have played if it was.
His arm was on fire, is what he said.
Yeah, it's just throwing elbow. Problem. That's a problem. Boy, but then again, you look at you honestly.
Here's the thing, though.
You could argue to me the most valuable player in the NFL might be Baker Mayfield
for what he's making and what he's contributing.
He's good. I mean, I watched the game yesterday because it was a game I had in the morning. The Brady, he looked fantastic.
Yeah,
some of these that throw he made that was like he ran up and like
to McMillan,
did like the shortstop and hit McMillan like an absolute seed.
Yeah,
and
to the point where even Brady was just like, yeah.
I mean, like if his name was anything other than, because people still think Baker and they think of like a something that he just isn't anymore. Like he's a really good player.
Yeah.
And to only make $33 million, like if I'm the Niners, I'm like, I'm not paying you that. Like,
so what Purdy will say in contract negotiations is, I am better than Dak Prescott. I am better than Trevor Lawrence. I am better than Deshaun Watson. I'm better than all these guys. So I have to make a minimum of $55 million plus a year. But the counter to that from the Niners is, look at every guy that got that deal.
Yeah, I would say the Niners, just because they do something stupid doesn't mean we have to.
Exactly. It's like, sure, do you want to be Trevor Lawrence and you're getting paid boatloads, but you're never going anywhere because your team's a disaster? Do you want to be Deshaun Watson?
If I was Trevor Lawrence, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. Give me the $55 million. Yeah, I don't.
So it's gonna. I totally understand you saying that it's gonna be extreme hardball negotiations because the Niners.
Thing is, he's not a free agent. He's eligible.
Yeah,
he's still signed.
Only thing is there is no fifth-year option, so that's what puts the little pressure on there. But there kind of is with the franchise tag.
Who cares? Yeah. Exactly. If he does great, we franchise him. And if he doesn't, we saved ourselves a lot of money.
So let's say 180. Is that something that you would be like, oh, okay, we got him under market?
45 a year?
45 a year. Would you be like, seems fair? Because in my opinion, I think you're going to get 220, if not higher, if he does sign an extension this offseason. Because 55 seems to be the going rate for a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And I don't
45
know. Versus 55.
It's like, would I really be happy? No. I mean, that's a lot of money for like, but like the alternative is like, what, Gardner Minshew? Like
there's not going to be another Baker Mayfield,
like,
Sam
look at
Darnold
Miami,
every
like
year.
Tua, I think Miami's going nowhere with Tua.
Yeah.
But when he's not playing, they're borderline unwatchable.
Yeah.
And like they're not even, you don't even get a fun Sunday.
Same with Dallas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, how much is that worth?
It's such a conundrum, and obviously, as we go throughout the playoffs and news breaks, and when we do our offseason
I mean, what
preview
do you
after the
think?
Super Bowl, we'll discuss it at that point. But
I don't know.
man, the most pivotal offseason for the Niners in recent memory. It's just like, where do they go after a season where it all basically fell apart? Let's go over Week 18 before we preview the wild card round. The Bengals hand the Steelers their fourth straight loss. Bengals end up not making the playoffs, but Burrow, I think he would have won the MVP 99 times out of 100. He just had a top 1% awful defense year. They probably should have gone like 13-4, 14-3 with that kind of. I mean, they had the guy who led the league in receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, and the guy who led the league in sacks, and a quarterback who led the league in yards and touchdowns. And they went 9-8. Really unbelievable there. But the main story is Pittsburgh's lost 4 in a row. Again, their offense looked completely lethargic, could only put up, 17 points against the worst, one of the 2 or 3 worst defenses in the league. So the Steelers limp into the playoffs. We were talking about Baker. Tampa won. It took a while to get there, but he was very good. To me, the bigger story was, Penix was really good, and Atlanta put up a lot of points. You said it at the moment. Raheem Morris, I mean, he's not going to get fired, but man, did he get close to getting to a point where this is your defense,
what's going to
man.
happen if Tampa loses? Because New Orleans has been through a world of shit in the last week or so. I was like, is there something with New Orleans? Is New Orleans going to get something here? You going to win a football game? And then like Atlanta's just going to lose to Carolina, and Tampa's going to the playoffs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa won, so we're not thinking about that. But I mean, I'll give him credit. Bryce Young looks a lot better. A lot better.
It's still 44
really
points to Bryce Young at home with the playoffs on the line.
Still. So I meant that more of a Panthers comment or
right.
Bryce Young comment. But yeah, I mean, I don't care who your quarterback is at Atlanta. It's Kirk, Mike. I don't know. They're just like the all hype team every year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they got all these guys, all these weapons. Well, why do they never make the playoffs?
I fell for it. I had them going 11-6. Completely fell for it. They were dreadful in that game and really all season, especially on defense. Raheem Morris he's got a long way to go.
Honestly, I feel like I gaslighted myself. I was like, is Raheem an offensive guy? Isn't he a defensive guy? Why are they going to have so many points?
When it's that bad where you're like, what side of the ball does he coach again? Never a good sign. Never a good sign. Washington got the 6th seed. The Bears beat the Packers. Jordan Love, they said he's fine. He's going to play next week, but it did look like he hurt his elbow in that game. They say he's good to go. Washington gets the 6th seed. Mariota was actually really good in that game. But Washington comes into the playoffs with some momentum, man. They're 12-5. Like, I thought before the season, hey, if they can get to like 9 or 10 wins, that'd be a hell of a year. They won 12 games in Dan Quinn's first season and Jaden Daniels' first season. I mean, of all the teams this year, maybe Vikings included, you got to just tip your cap to Washington. What a year from them.
Yeah, I mean, huge. To find, your head coach and quarterback like that 1 year and have it result, 12 and result in 12 wins immediately. Boy, we'll see if Cliff stays. I heard he's got some interviews. But I don't know. People keep saying he doesn't like being a head coach that much. Like he just wants to like chill.
That's a good fit for him with a young mobile quarterback. Real good fit. Just stay there.
I don't know. I really don't know what to think about that game because I think Tampa's got something. And I don't think Tampa's like the most difficult place to play, but it is a road game, rookie quarterback, which hasn't mattered at all for Jaden Daniels this year, but
similar situation in the AFC with the Broncos. So they freaking curb stomped the Chiefs' threes.
The Chiefs were like, we are not letting the Bengals in the playoffs because no one wants to see them.
Exactly. I mean, when I saw Carson Wentz come out there with Carson Steele and a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of, I was like, oh, this isn't the Chiefs resting some guys. This is the Chiefs playing the threes and only the threes in this game. I was like, oh my God, Carson Wentz was getting absolutely killed back there. So Andy Reid was like, good luck, man. You're playing with nobody. But Broncos get it done. Another one you got to just tip your cap. I hate Sean Payton's guts, but I mean, very good performance by him, by Bo Nix, who's going to finish second Rookie of the Year voting. Really, really impressive season to go 10-7. We got to talk about, we'll talk about the Pats situation here in a little bit, but the top 3 draft order is set. Titans, Browns, Giants. You would imagine the Titans and Giants would probably take quarterback. They both sorely need QBs. Obviously, the quarterbacks in this draft suck, but this is just how it goes these days. You take, someone that's going to get the fan base excited and that you can at least claim you can build around. The one thing I want to talk about before we get into the wild card preview, we got only 5 open head coaching jobs. It looks like several of these ones that speculated were going to be open. New York Giants, Las Vegas Raiders, Cowboys. Looks like these guys are staying. It's just Chicago, Jacksonville, New England, New Orleans, and the Jets. Oh boy, is that a rough crop of jobs there. So it's like, if you're Vrabel, who do you pick of that group if you really want to be a head coach this year?
Back to New England.
I think so too. So then that leaves,
because I've read a couple things already that people like, and this is why like people got trouble with like the Rooney Rule, right? I've read things like they know they're hiring Mike Vrabel. Like, why am I going to do this sham interview?
Right.
Like they're just like, and I don't mean just like minority candidate, just any candidate. Let's just like the writing's on the wall. Like, you're going to hire Mike Vrabel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do we got to go through all these BS interviews? But yeah, they're all crap jobs.
Did you see today? Rex Ryan is quote confident that he's going to get the Jets job. What? What?
I don't know.
Is Eric Mangini not available?
I think the Jets have the worst job.
I would agree. I would say
I think the Patriots might have the best, just in the sense that Drake May's there. And I'd rather
the Chicago one for the right guy could be an okay situation. I think the Jacksonville one's bad. I think the New Orleans one is awful. There's just nothing there to build on. I thought maybe the Dallas job would come open and that would be desirable for, some sort of established coach. But man, slim pickings out there right now, other than Vrabel. Like he can pick whichever of those 5 he wants, but everybody's saying it's very likely Ben Johnson gets the job in Chicago. They're saying it's very likely.
If I was him, I would not do it.
And he turned them down.
What makes you wanted that job after the season? If you didn't want it last year, like you knew you were getting Caleb Williams, if you would have taken that job.
Yeah.
What did you see this year that makes you go, I want it now? Unless you just want to be a head coach in the NFL, which, hey, a lot of people do.
Yeah. Who wants to work with Trevor Lawrence and a bunch of scrubs? Who wants to work with New Orleans still having, I guess, the worst cap situation in the league? They basically, all of those Breeze years kept pushing cash. And then now, you look at the last 4 years, they've been one of the worst teams in the league. So usually every year there's usually between 7 and 9 coaching openings.
I don't think they're done firing people.
You think there'll be a couple more that cross the wire? Because a few came out today.
I think they're going to there's going to be some talk, some chatter, and someone's going to fire their guy because they know they could hire somebody.
Only a few
I'm not entirely
sure
the Giants are not firing Dayball.
Well, the Giants owner came out today and said that they're retaining Dayball and Shane, the GM, which is horrendous. And then
I saw that and was like, I don't believe you. I was like,
Irsay said Steichen is staying, which I don't know.
A lot of shit going on with the Colts.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tire fire, but as of now, only 5 openings. We'll see how that breaks over the rest of the offseason. All right, let's get to what everybody's waiting for, the wild card preview. They dropped during Sunday Night Football last night. Everybody wants to know when and where and on what network. First, we start with the annual Houston Texans Invitational. If the Texans are playing a playoff game, it's going to be Saturday at 1:30 Pacific. Probably the worst of the 6. Chargers at Houston. Chargers favored by 2.5. Chargers got all the momentum. Big game for Stroud standing in quarterback rankings going forward. It seemed like coming into the season, people wanted to put him in the top 5 or 6 QBs in the league. Right now, he's definitely somewhere in the teens, in the 15, 14 range.
Yeah, he might be 15 to 20.
Yeah.
He had a really tough year.
He really did. This is a big game for him. I personally am leaning big time towards the Chargers. Your thoughts on this first matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fight in Jim Harbaugh's kind of hammer them. Actually, I don't think it's gonna be close.
I agree. I really think they're just going to out-physical the hell out of them. This game's on CBS. It's got Iron Eagle, yet another one in the long line of backup announcers who gets to do this game. Remember back in the day, NBC would throw guys out there. It was always Mike Mayock on the call for this game as the color commentator, but it'd be like Tom Hammond, Dan Hicks, guys that just don't call football. And they're like, throw somebody out there for the Texans game. So that'll be the first one off the board. The Saturday night game for Amazon, Baltimore -10 at home against Pittsburgh. Steelers are limping into the playoffs. They've lost 4 in a row. Everybody knew going into the season when they saw the Steelers schedule, they're like, that second half is just the mother of all gauntlets. They banked 10 wins early. They do finish 10-7. Baltimore should roll in this game, in my opinion. But again, it's the playoffs. Let's see a complete game from Lamar. Your thoughts on this one?
Baltimore should win. And really, I mean, they honestly should win something like 31-13.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that first half's going to be – I mean, Lamar, you look at the numbers, Lamar might win a third MVP. Like, honestly, I think this was the worst team they could have played. Actually, no, I think the Chargers probably would have been.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I texted you that. I think I like Pittsburgh just to cover.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to win the game, but this is Tomlin's specialty. Like, we think and have been saying for years that Tomlin, I mean, he now hasn't won a playoff game in 8 seasons. If he loses this one, it'll be 9. He's not. It
kind of feels like Pittsburgh got to the point where, like, and we're there. We thought they were.
Yeah, they are who we thought
they were like 10-2 or whatever they were, and it's like now they're. What they finish? 10-7.
10-7. They finished on a 4-game losing streak. I think they were 9-2, and then 10-3, and then they lost 4 in a row. Really, really tough end of the season for them. But this is a vintage Tomlin spot, getting 10 points on the road against the hated rivals. To me, this smells like maybe like 24-16, something like that. I do think your pick of Pittsburgh covering but not winning and not really being all that close, I see that in the future for sure.
Checking the weather. It'll be a night game, kickoff 8 o'clock.
It'll be a slog.
8:15, probably like 10 degrees, 15 degrees.
Might be a lot like that Miami.
I hope not.
Miami Kansas City game from last year.
What are we doing out here?
People are getting hurt. No, that was crazy. Again, that one.
I thought about that. Like, what other
rivalry
sport,
game? Maybe
like baseball, but like, what other sport do you like have? You play a sport a certain way, then you get to like the biggest game of the year, and it's like, oh, well, we're changed. Like the whole, like the actual like track, like the field, or like basketball. Hockey always played same surface indoors. Like, maybe baseball, but you don't play. They just rain out or something.
People have always said, what if the Minnesota Twins made the World Series? Like, could they play those games? Because they now have an outdoor stadium because they only play in summer months. Certain teams like that, White Sox and Cubs and when it was Cubs Indians a few years ago in the World Series, every game was like 31 degrees and guys, their hands are stinging after every swing.
Like, that's freaking cold. And like getting jammed on your fingers, foul ball or something probably hurts like a mofo, but that's still 31 degrees.
Yeah.
Was it last year, Kansas? It was like -10.
Yeah. Guys' helmets were cracking from the hits, and you were like, hey, at what point is this unsafe?
It's like, I don't know, just like, it's like the whole entire game. It's like the basketball, and they're like, oh, we're going to play it in a pool. It's going to be like water polo.
But the worse the weather is, I think the more advantageous for the Steelers, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Buffalo -8.5, the Sunday morning game on CBS, playing against Denver. Buffalo's rested. They basically sat everybody yesterday. I think they're going to be able to limit Bo Nix in this tough environment. Too much too soon for Denver's young core. I like what they did this year. I don't really see them competing in this one. Are you all over Buffalo, or do you think Denver's a little frisky here?
I think Denver's pretty frisky, actually.
Okay.
I don't think they win, but I do think they cover. I think Buffalo might be one of those teams. Like you never should do this, but I think they might be just subconsciously just like let's get to Kansas City. Like they want that game. And if I remember correctly, it feels like Buffalo is always the two seed, and they always play that Sunday morning CBS game. And it didn't they play Pittsburgh last year?
And the year before that, they played Indianapolis in that same spot. Yeah.
But I thought last year, they played Pittsburgh and it wasn't supposed to be close, but it was. I don't know.
It was like a Saturday game, and they moved it to Monday afternoon.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I remember watching okay.
Yeah.
And in Denver, I don't care who Kansas City played. I mean, you thump anyone 38-0. I also am not a huge fan of the rest, unless you're a team like Kansas City who rests every year in the first round. I don't know. I think Denver can.
So you lean Denver plus the points here. I'm thinking.
Wins.
I would say Buffalo 38-17 or something is my pick, but you're thinking more like maybe.
You're thinking they hammer them.
I just think Josh Allen against that Denver defense. The Denver defense was very good at the start of the year, and then very good in this game. They got absolutely waxed by Joe Burrow. They scored 30. They probably could have scored 50 in that game, and then their defense struggled a little bit down the stretch. I just think Josh Allen's going to go nuts in this game. He's so tired of having to hear how Lamar's nipping at his heels for the MVP, and he's like, watch Lamar choke against the Steelers, and then watch me put 5 touchdowns.
It was crazy, the MVP. I'll talk about it because I want to make it my take, my Joey's take. But you look at Josh Allen, the narrative and the eye test is oh, it's Josh Allen's time. You put his numbers next to Lamar's numbers, there's no way you can argue it shouldn't be Lamar.
Correct. 100%.
I don't. So I have my thing. I'm not Lamar's number one fan. I mean, really love him. Love hearing him talk. But the big games kind of scares me. But I mean, his numbers he deserves it more this year than he did last year.
Absolutely. I 100% agree, and we'll get to that in your take later. But to me, this is a Josh Allen put the hammer down type game. Green Bay at Philly, the Sunday midday game. This is the Fox one. Philly's favored by 5 at home against the Pack. To me, this is a nightmare matchup for both teams. I think Philly wanted Washington, and I think Green Bay wanted either Tampa or the Rams, and both teams get their worst matchup. A total slugfest with two coaches who love to run. What is Hurts going to look like after 3 weeks off? Supposedly, if he plays, he is still in the concussion protocol with 6 days left till kickoff. So something to monitor there. I just saw that this game, it was -5. They just reopened it again. It was off the board all day. So somebody thinks that Jalen Hurts is a lock to play for them to bring the betting window back open. So Philly favored by 5 there. I'm definitely leaning Green Bay with that amount of points. What are your thoughts on this one? Maybe the biggest one of the weekend.
Yeah, the Jalen Hurts thing, because whether or not he's even healthy, how does he play? Yeah, I'd like the Packers. I don't love the fact Christian Watson got hurt and might miss all of next year too. But I do. I think the Packers very easily could have been the Detroit Lions of last year. I mean, they should have beat the Niners. They hammered Dallas. And who knows who knows what would have happened if they beat the Niners and played Detroit.
They won last year as a 7th seed and an underdog on the road. I think they can do it again. This is probably a similar matchup too. I think this year's Eagles kind of remind me of last year's Cowboys, where it's yes, they have a very good record, but so many questions going into the playoffs. So I agree. I like Green Bay in this spot. Washington at Tampa is the Sunday night game on NBC. Tampa Bay -3.5. The Bucks squeak in. They almost blew that one to the Saints yesterday, but Baker's obviously on fire. He's been great. The Commanders have been on a roll the last 5 weeks as well. They've won 5 in a row. Should be a high-scoring and entertaining game for us neutral fans. As a Vikings fan, obviously I'm rooting for Green Bay and Washington here. If they both win, then we get to host a game in the second round if we beat the Rams. I would like to see one of these two.
You're rooting for the Packers?
Oh, abso-freaking-lutely, because then the Packers would have to go to Detroit, and then we could
no.
possibly host a game in the second round.
No. Oh my
What?
God.
You
I would
disagree?
never. Oh my God. If Seattle was in the playoffs or something, I'd be like, I don't care. I'd be like, get them out of here.
Even if it meant that you could host
Screw
a
you,
second
Evan.
playoff game?
Huh?
Even if it meant that you could host a playoff game?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
See, I'm all
because
about
like
maximizing chance of victory. I don't care who we play. If we play the Packers, the Lions,
well, my thing is like I
the
assume
2012 Giants, I don't care.
No matter what the team is, I assume we just lose. And I'm like, if we lose, I want them to lose. So
See, I turn into that mode once my team is eliminated. I will root hard against the Packers once the Vikings are eliminated. But if we're still in it, I root for whoever gives us the best chance to win the Super Bowl. And the best chance to win the Super Bowl is to host a game in round 2 or round 3, and play inferior opponents. You have any idea how much I'd rather play Washington than Philly in the next round, or Tampa instead of Detroit? Like, come on. I want an assist here, but
I honestly thought you would want to play Detroit, but not after last.
no, God, no. If we play them in the NFC Championship, I will gladly take it. But if we win this game against the Rams, I really don't want to see them in round 2. Your thoughts on the Washington-Tampa game? I lean towards Washington plus 3.5. I think Tampa maybe wins it close, 3-point win.
This one I have no clue because I like Tampa, but I don't know. Washington hot.
Mm-hmm. Daniels appears to be fully healthy after a little midseason scare.
Yeah. I'd probably leave Washington.
And then the big one, I will be in attendance for this one. Vikings minus 1.5 at the Rams, ESPN, Monday Night Football. Buck and Aikman will be there. Sean McVay against his pupil, Kevin O'Connell. Can Darnold shrug off the massive loss on Sunday Night Football, get the passing game back on track? A lot of talk about the Rams offense. They really, in games that mattered, haven't scored a lot of points. They've scored 19 or less in 4 straight weeks if you take out the scrub game with Jimmy Garoppolo last week. So some people speculating that Stafford is playing hurt. They've rested Nakua, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, a lot of the offensive line. So obviously they're going to be healthy going into this game. There is some concern with Stafford. He's now, 38, 39 years old. If he's healthy and if, McVay's able to run kind of the same game plan he always does with getting the ball to Kupp and Nakua and Kyron Williams and just kind of leaning on his stars, I think it's an excellent matchup for the Rams. I'm probably going to take the Rams in my picks. Your thoughts on this one after seeing the Vikings lay an egg?
I mean, it's amazing how like one game it's like you rethink everything. Because I mean the Rams, they were the team last year I didn't want the Niners to see. I think Minnesota.
Would you be interested to know what the lines were before the Vikings Lions game started?
The hypothetical Minnesota.
The hypothetical lines. So I did see
Minnesota minus 6.5.
Minnesota minus 4.5. Do you want to know what Detroit was?
If they played LA?
6.5. So it's down to 1 for the Vikings, 1.5, 1 in some places. So that was a 3-point swing based on Sunday Night Football, and I completely agree with it. By the way, I have already bet the Rams in this game at plus 2.5 and money line for very large sums of money, as we'll get to later in the pod with my emotional hedge betting strategy. But your lean here, if you had to pick?
Minnesota, probably. Not super confident, but
I would say, not trying to be as unbiased as I can. This is probably the hardest game to pick of the week, and it's either this one or Washington Tampa.
I think it's gonna be a really good game.
I think it should be high scoring if Darnold can just get his head out of his ass. It should be like the first time they met was 30-20, and we got robbed of a chance to score at the end, so it could have been even more high scoring. So. We'll see how that one goes. Obviously, a lot to talk about that one in the future as well. Joey's Jack and the Bum of the Week. We got to get to it. My personal pick this week would have been contract incentives. I am so freaking tired of Adam Schefter tweeting 100 times a day over the past week about This guy needs 1.5 sacks to get $1 million. Mike Evans needs, X number of catches to reach $3 million. Geno Smith needs to reach this completion percentage to get a $3 million bonus. We do not care. Raheem Morris, another one. I gave it to him last week when we had to do the pod solo. He was terrible in week 17 with his clock management. He was terrible again this week on defense. And then for the first time all year, Sam Darnold is in the bum of the week discussion. It was his worst game as a Viking, 12 of 29 for 120-something yards. I mean, just a terrible performance. But you're going with a team that really screwed themselves.
Yeah. Not a lot of great there wasn't any Devondre Campbell, Jacoby Myers type moments here this past week. But my bums, the New England Patriots, to just hand over the first pick and then fall to, what do they fall? They fall 4?
Yeah.
I mean, it's criminal. What are we doing here? I guess I kind of respect it. Maybe Gerard Mayo knew he was getting fired and just said, screw this. We're winning. Good for Joe Milton.
He looked good.
Yeah. But, I mean, you just can't do it. Can't do it. Just, you need to call QB sneak 55 times. That has to be a loss. I mean, I'm not a Patriots fan, but if I was, I would be pissed. I mean, granted, it's not as bad as who knows? When the Jets basically went from Trevor Lawrence to Zach Wilson, which, whatever at this point. But, yeah.
Texans did this a few years ago as well. Lovie Smith.
Yeah, that's right. Went to Chicago. Yeah, I mean, just complete organizational failure. Losers.
Yeah, from the top on down. Someone asked Robert Kraft and his son, who run the team today, was there any discussion with Mayo's coaching staff about plans for this game? And they said flatly no. And that was probably to avoid any kind of NFL fine or whatever. But man, if there was ever a time to
all you got to say is I really wanted to get a good look at our 5th running back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all 65 halfback power.
Over and over and over. No, I mean, at the bare minimum, why not fire Mayo during the week so that it's chaos and the team loses? If you knew you were going to fire him, why leave him in that situation where he clearly wanted to win?
Did they fire him after the game?
They fired him. It came out less than 90 minutes after the game.
I mean, I guess if you get fired, why do you have to wait? I don't know, but it just seemed like
usually you wait till Monday morning.
It seemed like you fired him so quick. It was I don't know. Why didn't you just fire him that day? I don't know.
An organization that, other than the years that they had Tom Brady, has been one of the worst in sports, and it looks like they're headed there again. Maybe Mike Vrabel can save them, but New England Patriots, Joey Shack in the bum of the week for week 18. To go to the You Like That picks of the week. We're starting the playoffs. By the way, last year we went 47, 39, and 4 on our regular season picks. This year we went 47, 39, and 4 on our regular season picks. Pretty unbelievable. So far we're 56.3% on the season, including our 6-2 record on futures bets. Just to go over our futures bets for those who didn't listen to the preseason pods, we picked the Jacksonville under and New Orleans under, which both got there. We picked the Washington over and the Miami over. We got there with Washington. We picked Pittsburgh's under and Kansas City's over. We got there with Kansas City. And then we got there with Chicago's under and Seattle's over. So all in all, pretty good preseason for us, where we got the divisions pretty much spot on. Let's go to the picks of the week. I'm going to pick all 6 wild card games. I'm just going to run down real quick, Joey. I got the Chargers -2.5, Pittsburgh +10, Buffalo -8.5, Green Bay +5, Washington +3.5, and the Rams +1.5. Anything jump out to you there as, hey, I strongly disagree with that, or anything that you're like, hey, that's a winner?
No, there's probably nothing I strongly disagree. I
It sounded like you were more comfortable with Denver than Buffalo.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I might be overthinking that.
The Rams one, I'm just like, if Detroit's defense can shut us down, what is Sean McVay going to do? I mean, Sean McVay knows everything about Kevin O'Connell and how he likes to run an offense. I just feel like if I had
If
to
I
pick,
remember correctly,
as a
that
neutral-
game you went to, like Minnesota, like the first 2 drives were like boom, boom, touchdown. Like it was like 14 points in the first quarter.
it was 14-14, like 2 minutes into the second quarter. Like both, I thought the game was going to be like 56-50 or something. It was nuts. And then it slowed down a little bit from there. But like, clearly, when it's master versus apprentice, you always got to take the master. And in this situation, I'm like, oh boy, it's different.
Who did you? I mean, okay, obviously you wanted to win the game and get the 1 seed, but like, who did you not want to play?
I would have rather faced Tampa. Obviously, I would have rather faced Atlanta, but that wasn't going to happen. Once I realized that it was going to be us against either Tampa Bay or the Rams, I was rooting for Tampa Bay. I was like, I hope Tampa loses or the Rams win so that we can avoid the Rams. As much as I wanted to go to the game, I'm like, please give us the Tampa Bay matchup. So I was
to an NFL playoff game on the road.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, man.
What a recipe for the hotline.
Road. It'll be a home.
I don't care. You can say whatever. You're going to get so sick of. Let's get ready for second down. Rams house.
Whose house? And then like 7 people are like Rams house, and everybody else is like wearing the other team's colors. No, we'll see how that goes. So that's my picks of the week. I'm giving you all 6 wild card matchups. We're going with the Chargers -2.5, Pittsburgh +10, Buffalo -8.5, Green Bay +5, Washington +3.5, and then the Rams +1.5. Joey, it's time for your Feels Great Baby, your wildest take you feel best about currently. And let's talk about the MVP debate because I completely agree with your take here.
Well, I kind of hinted at my take. I'm talking about MVP, but this notion that like it's Josh Allen's to lose, much as I love Josh Allen, love watching him, that's just the numbers don't back that up. But my ultimate point is I don't care what the record is. I firmly believe Joe Burrow should be the MVP. I don't care that they didn't make the playoffs. It wasn't his fault. He played better than everyone this year at the most important position.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it to him.
John Gruden made this point the other day on Barstool that the stats indicated 100% should be Burrow.
Then just admit it's just I don't know,
narrative award. Yeah.
Like, and just in general, like I just hate the idea that you have to make. Granted, like you can't give it to somebody who puts it and you're like 5-12. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But to barely miss it, have a bunch of excruciatingly close losses that, I mean, I know they went for 2 against the Ravens that game. Maybe you want to put that a little bit on him. He threw the ball, whatever. But I know they had the one they missed a kick. The defense is giving them 900 yards a game. I don't care. He should win it. But if he doesn't, yeah, I probably would give it to Lamar. I honestly might give it to Saquon Barkley before I gave it to Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen, I mean, essentially, I think because of their situation, they clinched the AFC East with like 6 weeks to go. They geared it down the last month of the season for sure.
But that matters. Like we vote now, or I don't know. But like they vote for it now.
Mm-hmm.
He's had no meaningful anything. Not his fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last meaningful game he played was at Detroit, and he was amazing. But we haven't seen him since then. Like he hasn't had to do anything. Meanwhile, Lamar's playing for his postseason life every week and just putting up insane stats. And Burrow is just behind and throwing, 60 times a game. Completely agree with you that in a normal season, this would be Burrow's award. Like it should be. I mean, he's got a nincompoop head coach.
You mean to tell me? Do you agree that if they would have made the playoffs, even as if the 7 seed, he would have been automatic?
No, I personally, and I'm not talking about my opinion. I'm talking about what would have happened. My thoughts on what would have happened. I think Josh Allen was going to win the award after week 16.
You think
no matter what? I still think he's going to win it. And I think Lamar has an outside chance and he would have my vote. But I think even if Burrow squeaked into the playoffs, I don't think there was ever a chance that he was going to win the award.
See,
the media decides this, not the stats.
I had imagined. I thought if if they made the playoffs, he would have just been like, "Oh, he's getting it. He made the playoffs. Look at the numbers too." And so like what if the Chiefs beat Denver yesterday? He goes from he's not even getting one vote to getting like he's winning the award just because I don't know. Like
I don't think there was a world where
you
basically
think even if they did
16,
make the playoffs, you still think it's going to see? I think it's going to go to Lamar.
Personally, my vote would be for Lamar, and I think it's maybe 60-40 that Allen wins it. I think there was no chance Burrow was ever going to be even. He might have got one per first place vote or something. I don't think there was any chance that he was going to get in there, just because if you look, I think it's been since Adrian Peterson in 2012 that a team wasn't a 1 or 2 seed for the MVP. That's just, it is what it is. And it's like Allen's a 2 seed. They're going to give it to him. Like Matt Ryan got it that one year when in a year where Breeze and Brady and Manning and Rodgers and all these guys are there. They're just like, who was the 1 seed? Boom, Matt Ryan, MVP.
It feels very NBA-ish, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, who's the best player on the best team? MVP.
Yeah. Yeah, Derrick Rose. Like, wasn't LeBron there? Wasn't Kevin Durant doing quite well? No, very NBA. Yeah, we'll see. Right now, I think Josh Allen is minus 130 and Lamar's plus 110 for MVP.
I'd love to see Josh Allen's. I might have to pull it up or something. His numbers against Jared Goff. Jared Goff's a 1 seed. No one talks about him sniffing an MVP award.
What about Baker Mayfield? He's a 3 seed. He should get some votes. Darnold, if he didn't have a stinker, he should have got some
touchdowns.
Yeah. It's crazy how the media just kind of makes up their mind 2 or 3 weeks ahead. Like Brock Purdy was the favorite at through 16 weeks last year, and then they just kind of were like, "Oh well."
Well, he played Lamar on Christmas and got him obliterated,
and that changed that narrative. So Joey says Burrow should win the MVP, but they're going to give it to Lamar. I say Lamar should win the MVP, but they're going to give it to Allen. So we'll see how that breaks out. Let's close the pod. We try to keep these right around an hour, even though this is just a massive quote unquote super wild card week. I want to talk to you. I've been talking to a lot of my friends about my betting habits over the last few years. So you know all too well about this. We text about this all the time. I am one of the foremost purveyors of the quote unquote emotional hedge bet. And it's something I've been doing since 2014. When I was 21 years old. I've done this for years and years, and I keep a spreadsheet of every bet I've ever made on Google Drive, and I just log every time I make a bet. So all time, I am down like $1,300 on normal bets. All time, after this Detroit game, I am now up $11,400 on emotional hedge bets. An emotional hedge bet for me.
I just wrote that. And I'm like whether it's like Vikings or A's, I'm like, they've lost a lot of big games.
Yes, they have. And this is going back. So 2014.
Oh, it's like $11,000. And I'm like, no, I heard his team is losing a lot of big games. He's not really thrilled. He's winning.
This is the strategy. And everybody at home who doesn't bet or doesn't understand betting, when you're a fan of a team, and you're a super fan. You're not just like, oh, I like the Warriors. I like you are a fanatic. When your team makes the playoffs or plays in, an enormous game, and I'm not talking, a basketball first round game or something like that. I'm talking NFL playoff game, MLB, like ALDS, ALCS, World Series, in hockey, conference championship, Stanley Cup final, stuff like that. You bet on the opposition for much more money than you usually bet. I almost always bet $10 or $20 when I bet on football games or baseball games or basketball or soccer or whatever I bet on. So in my life, it all started in 2014 World Series. I bet $250 on the Giants to win the World Series because I was like, I just cannot stand to see them win another World Series. It's just going to pain me so much. So I'm rooting for the Royals, but I'm going to bet on the Giants. Well, the Giants won, so I made some money. I then started following that up from that point forward. 2015 NFC wildcard game, Vikings Seahawks. Large bet on the Seahawks. Seahawks win. 2018 and 2019 AL wildcard games for the A's. Bet on the opposition both times. Won both of those. Vikings NFC championship game 2017 against the Eagles. The week before, I lost a ton of money betting on the Saints from the Minneapolis Miracle. But then I just carried over the losses from that and bet it all on Philly and then won that one. This year, I realized the Vikings were going to be really good once they got to like 12 wins or whatever. I was like, oh, time to put some money in my account. I bet $875 on Detroit money line yesterday. Won 725 bucks. I then today, when I realized the matchup,
so you use that for tickets to the game, or you just
exactly
put it on the Rams?
I am going to the Vikings Rams game for free because I won $700 and whatever betting on Detroit the other day. In this Vikings Rams game, I have a $909 bet on the Rams to win $2,000. So I'm like, this is just my strategy, and I tell people this all the time. I told Johan, who's been on the pod, and he's like, man, you're crazy. I tell my golf buddy Ryan, who I play with all the time, he's like, man, you're nuts. I'm like, when my team finally wins it all, it's going to really, really hurt financially, but I will not give a shit. So I'm just going to keep riding this train as long as I can.
That's the thing. The only way you might regret it is if your team wins, which I don't think you'll care about anything.
Exactly. So why doesn't everybody do this? That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you're crazy at all. I think
Okay.
it's smart.
I've been talking about this for years, and my dad would be like, be careful. And people are like, hey, be careful with that. I'm like, I've made $11,000 doing this. And if I really wanted to,
it would help because like if I was a Vikings fan yesterday, I imagine you were, I mean, it's beyond like just disappointing and just pisses you off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it'll wreck your week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I had, how much you think he wants, like 725?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be that mad. I'd be like, this sucks. And I mean, like, we should have played better, but I'm like,
but here's the thing though.
Money.
So yesterday the Golden Globes were on. So Jamie is in the bedroom watching the Golden Globes on TV with the cats so that I'm alone out there because she knows during these kind of games I get so tense and I make loud noises and scare the cats or whatever. She's like, you get that room. While I'm watching that game, knowing that if the Vikings win, I'm going to lose $875. Every play until the game was essentially over when we were down 2 scores in the fourth, I am rooting with all of my heart for the Vikings to score a touchdown on that play or prevent a touchdown on that play.
Really, yeah, explain Fanatic. It's like, I'm about to lose $875.
Yeah.
Or it's like, I might lose $800. You're hoping you lose.
I am praying to God
$875.
that I lose that money. And again, when I go to this game and I bought a parking pass today and I'm monitoring tickets, I want to sit right by the Vikings tunnel like I did last time. I was able to get a seat like right by where the team comes in and goes out for the start of the game and halftime and fourth quarter and whatnot. And last time I paid like $170 for that ticket because it was a Thursday. This time, since it's a Monday, the face value for those same tickets is something like $520. I'm already seeing them drop below face value. They're going to continue to drop because it's a Monday and there's traffic and people are working and it's hard to get to that game. So it's like I may get to go to the game and sit in really good seats for free. If the Vikings win, I'm going to be like, I just watched my team win a playoff game. That would be the first. This will be the first NFL playoff game I've been to in my life. And if they win, I'm going to be like, I was there when my team won a playoff game. I'll be out $909 plus the money I spent on tickets, and I will not care a lick. But if the Vikings get freaking curb stomped, like I kind of expect us to, as we're walking out, I'm like, you want to get something for dinner? I just made $2,000. Like, why don't people do this? I've been a proponent of this for years, and people call me crazy. Like, why don't people do this more often? If you have a steady job and a steady income and money in
isn't that crazy? I mean, you did just say, if my team wins, I'm throwing away $9. Well, that's the thing. I guess that's the thing. Is the only way you lose is if your team
wins the Super Bowl.
That's
Because I'll just carry it over.
Yeah.
Say the Vikings win this game, then I'll bet $1,500 or something on the Lions in round 2 or Tampa or whoever we end up playing. And then if they win that one, then I'll have to bet like $3,000 on the NFC Championship. And by the end, sure, maybe I'll be out a shitload of money. I won't care. Also, it's coming out of my paycheck, like whatever. It's not like I'm taking it out of my wife's paycheck or anything. This is my money that I get from my work. I'm like, I can fuck around with this if I want to. And I just tell people all the time, when you tell me I'm crazy or you're like, that's risky or watch out, you could get addicted to gambling. I'm like, no, this is the one safe, foolproof way to get involved in sports betting. If you're a fan, if you're a casual sports fan, this is not for you. If you're a true diehard fanatic, like I am for the Vikings and formerly the A's and the Sharks and whatnot, I think I put like 150, $200 on the Penguins in the 2016 finals. It's like, it's foolproof, man. I don't know why more people don't do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a phenomenal strategy, actually.
Should I go on some sort of financial podcast and just, say you're an SEC football fan or something,
It makes me think if I bet the team, whoever's playing the Sharks this year, every single game, how much money would I win?
You'd make a shitload of money, but I'm telling you, man, this only works for high stakes. Like,
Well, I think you'd probably the Sharks lose 8 games in a row and probably up like a bunch. But then they win a game and the odds are probably so bad, like I'd probably lose it all if they win one game.
Because in some of these games they're like plus 400.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, that's what I'm saying. It also only works when your team is good enough to get to those games. When your team is mediocre, like remember the 2012 Vikings that Joe Webb started a quarterback in the playoffs. You can't do it there because the other team is such a massive favorite. Like Detroit in the game yesterday was like minus 135, and then when I bet the Rams, they were plus 120. So you can do it then. Say the Vikings make the NFC Championship, and then Darnold breaks his leg, and it's Nick Mullins starting the game, and the Lions are favored by 19 points or 20 points or something. There's nothing I can do there. I'm screwed. But it's got to be a game that's at least relatively even. 2017 NFC Championship game, the Vikings were favored by 3. So I bet
in Philly?
It was in Philly, and the Vikings were favored because they're like, Nick Foles, get the fuck out of here.
Wasn't that game like 41-7?
34-7.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
More people need to adopt it, man. So I hope we come on the pod next week and I'm like, oh man, I'm in a little bit of a hole here. So we'll see.
No, you don't. I was gonna say, yeah. I was like, yeah, like, oh man, I wish you'd be like, oh, I'm happy with the money, and be like, no, you're not.
No, I am not. I want to see my team win the Super Bowl, and it's still possible. My brother texted me after the game yesterday. There's so much negativity from all my Vikings fan people, but my brother goes, as a Seahawks fan who knows the Rams in and out, this is not a special Rams team. You guys are going to win the game. And I was like, that's what I needed to hear. He's like, Stafford doesn't have it this year.
I feel good for about 5 minutes. And then
that calmed me down after wanting to jump off.
I didn't realize you were in a JJ McCarthy year. Hot take, does he play a game for the Minnesota Vikings? Ever?
I think he starts week 1 next year, personally.
Really?
I think, based
people
on
already saying teams calling 2, 3, and a 4.
Well, we only have a 1 and 2 5s next year, so we badly need draft picks. So we'll see how that goes.
You're not a fan of the 2, 3, 4 franchise?
If Darnold wins 2 or more playoff games, franchise tag him or sign him to a modest extension. If Darnold loses in round 1, let him walk. McCarthy's the guy for next year. I can't. Maybe franchise tag him, but you cannot give an extension to a guy who looked so deer in the headlights in a game like that. Here's the other thing too. It's the last thing I'm going to say before we close the pod. If that was against a good defense or a great defense, that's one thing. This is against a flat out bad defense. You can't do it. Can't do it. And expect to make $50 million a year. I'm sorry.
Purdy looked like a $60 million quarterback in story last week until he started playing like Jimmy.
And Darnold didn't look like that.
I almost bought the $5 Sunday ticket just for yesterday, just so I could watch Jimmy and Trey Lance.
Yeah, Jimmy looked good. Trey Lance looked like Trey Lance. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening again. Big pod coming next week. Hopefully we're still talking Vikings football, but whether or not they win, we'll still be here, and we'll guide you all the way to the Super Bowl and beyond. Thanks everybody for listening and subscribing. We'll be back next week. This is another episode of You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. We will see you next week.